day, and now I give the floor to Presidential Administration spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Today, second anniversary of freeing Slavyansk and Kramatorsk from militant groups. We greet the residents of those towns with this memorable date, and we bow our heads in commemoration of those servicemen who sacrificed their lives for freedom, independence, and territorial integrity of Ukraine. And now about the events in the ATO area during the last 24 hours. In the Lugansk area, during dark hours, there were 2 enemy shellings near Novozvanivka village in Popasnyansky region, and one of them was mortar shelling. Donetsk area, the situation improved in Svetlodarsky Bulge. During the last 24 hours, the enemy only twice violated ceasefire at the spotted front line. This happened near Troitsk and Lugansk. The militants actively used mortars and artillery to the north and west of Gorlovka, and starting from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the morning, the militants shelled with the use of heavy weapons Toretsk and suburbs, and some houses were damaged, and gas line and non-residential buildings. Hopefully, there were no casualties among civilians, and self-propelled systems of the enemy were deployed in Volmirsky village, and they opened fire in the region of Zaitsev and Dacha village. They launched 57 shells. Also, counter-battery systems obtained from our American allies will allow us to quickly and effectively counteract these aggressive actions of the militants. According to the information provided by the Chief Intelligence Department of MOD, during the last 3 days, the Occupation Administration and the offices of FSB of Russia and the representatives of the Ministry of State Security of DPR carried out 60 searches in Gorlovka. The militants searched and confiscated smartphones, tablets, computers, acoustic stereo systems with radio receivers. These illegal acts are carried out under the pretext of anti-subversive activity. Yesterday, during the second part of the day, the active military actions were in Donetsk area, in Avdiivka production area, and in the suburbs of Donetsk airport. In Avdiivka, one civilian person was wounded. In near Niversky, there was mortar shelling delivered by the militants that lasted for about an hour. Along the front line from Lugansk to Pisky, Ukrainian forces were forced to return fire. On the whole, in the Donetsk area, there were 33 enemy shellings, including 20 with the use of heavy weapons. In Mariupol area, the enemy continued the tactics of heavy mortar shellings. During the last 24 hours, in Krasnogorovka, Marienka, and at the part of the front line, Gnutova-Shirokina, the enemy launched about 120 mines of different caliber. In Marienka, the shell of the militants got into the private house. There, a wall was ruined and the house was damaged. But fortunately, the residents didn't suffer because they were in the yard. Also, the enemy sporadically used APCs and anti-tank missile complexes. From 11 in the morning till 6 in the evening, there was full lull because the most intensive military actions are early in the morning and also during the twilight. To suppress the enemy and to defend the people, our Ukrainian servicemen repeatedly returned fire. It was full lull in one of the hottest areas in Mariupol area, near Dokuchaevsk. This is the part of the front line, Berezova, Novotroitsk.
This was connected with the OSCE mission visit. However, the enemy temporarily, that is why the enemy temporarily stopped its aggressive actions. A total of 28 enemy shells were registered in Mariupol sector, including 10 of them with the use of heavy weapons. Yesterday, 3 Ukrainian servicemen died and 13 were wounded as a result of military actions. We express our condolences to the relatives of the deceased soldiers. The enemy losses yesterday, 7 persons died and 6 were wounded. They were from 9th Regiment Novazov, 3rd Brigade Gorlivka, and 4th Brigade based in Alchevsk of the occupants. The highest losses suffered the 9th Separate Assault Motorized Rifle Regiment of Marines upon the violation of the munition storage rules. Mortar mines exploded in the blindage. As a result, 6 militants of the mortar battery were killed by that explosion, in that blast. The surnames of Russian citizens wounded while fighting in Donbass in the militants groups have been identified. Murtuzaliyev, 55 years old, from Volgograd; Andriy Lysenko, 47, from Balashikha; and stateless person Igor Kulkin. He was also injured yesterday. In Terezk yesterday, some disorders were observed late at night. Pro-Russian previously convicted persons group who were drunk tried to interfere with the movement of Ukrainian military vehicles by blocking the road. Local law enforcement officers explained people that their actions endanger security of peaceful residents because the occupants continue their attempts to capture the city. After several hours, the people cleared the area. The event organizers were detained. The security service of Ukraine arrested Kharkiv journalist Andriy Lysenko. He was on the wanted list for the encroachment on territorial integrity of Ukraine. Until recently, he had been hiding in Russia. Russian security service deported the journalist to Ukraine, and in the airport, the security service of Ukraine took him. Mr. Borodavka has been cooperating with the investigation recently and disclosing information about pro-Russian and separatist movements in Ukraine in his testimonies. The docket will be transferred to court in several days. The security service also detained citizens of Dnipropetrovsk region who administered the separatist websites in social media. The offender met DPR militants last year, and he agreed to spread anti-Ukrainian propaganda in social media via the internet. Ukrainian servicemen helped to secure civilians from explosive devices. Officers of civil military cooperation team jointly with the rescue team installed special marks about mine danger in the frontline areas in Mariupol sector, in particular near the villages of Sopene and Vinogradne. These marks warns the drivers to be attentive because they can explode. Час Руху newspaper. I have a question. You told that our military men were forced to return fire upon the fire on the side of LPR and DPR militants. As a civilian person, I would like to ask, do you have information why they were to return fire? First, the fire is returned in the following cases. The first case when their life is endangered, and the second is when this fire would be efficient. For rifles, grenade launchers, this means that the enemy use the landscape and greenery to approach our front line and try to shoot onto our military staff, and we use the weaponry allowed by Minsk arrangements. That is why our soldiers return fire when it is efficient. Are there any more questions? There are no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Lysenko.